Good morning, folks. Today I will like to share my views on the disaggregation on the site. We all know recently there are two terms like Open RAN and the Edge. They have really gained momentum. Some guys, I think, just support the hype to say that we are ready and start deploying, while others say that, especially the one with the vendor thoughts that the, the traditional RAN performance is quite high and it is not possible to deploy this in an open way. However, both statements are, I think, on the extreme. Today, I just want to share in a traditional and commercial on-air RAN where we are standing and what is the right way forward. So, if we see the journey of the RAN in the context of 5G, we all know that traditionally in the RAN, let's say in the 2G world, there was just voice and SMS. Then in the 3G, we get the data or the content, right? And then with the 4G, we get all this video experience with the Netflix and AWS Prime, Amazon Prime, all those stuff. But with 5G, there is more and more new services that are going to be offered. So it's very important to understand how we will deploy the RAN. For example, if we need to expand the site and offer new features, develop new services as per our requirement. So, in other words, the new generation services and to create real value from 5G, it is very important that we build it in a open and scalable way, and this is what makes 5G and Open RAN a close colossal. In terms of services, we all know today with 5G we are at the evolution phase where we see the EMBB or the enhanced mobile broadband and voice IMS services we are offering. But in the next wave with the 3GBP release 16, there is further enhancements on the video and edge services and the content and following by the verticals or industry like smart manufacturing, V2X, healthcare opportunity and smart cities. So at the end of the day, it is very important to know that 5G and Open RAN are going to supplement and complement each other, right? Because in future RAN has to be designed in a open way and that help developers to onboard their applications that require RAN APIs availability. So this all makes sense for the open RAN in the right way. In terms of deployment journey, we all know we started off over RAN with the feeder-based solutions where we have the antenna and AAU at the top, and then cables coming to the box comprising of both the RRU and BBU. Then we split it, right? We split it in a way to make networking and connectivity more agile. We called it as DBS, distributed base stations, where the RRU part goes to the top, right, and avoiding the feeder, and hence with just the traditional fiber, which we call CPRI cable, comes down. However, the utilization of this CPRI solution is quite low. In fact, in the latest benchmark, we find that even in the worst case, it remains within the 40 to 45%. So we decided to disaggregate the RAN, and currently the Overall Alliance latest specs eCPRI 7.2 is where most of the Open RAN deployments are happening. However, even in the current deployment is based on option as 7, which means that both the DU and CU should implement the full OSI protocol stack all the way from RF physical to the RRC. In order to make 5G more profitable, it must be moving to the higher layer like option 3 where the MAC layer is processed till the DU and the higher layers as the CU. It will further help us to split between CU control and CU user plane. Because we foresee that maybe for one region of RAN with thousands of sites, we have a CUU in every HDC or maybe at every site as well. Whereas the CU control plane as the regional data centers together with the RIC and the automation part. So that is very important to see to evolve Open RAN in steps like first phase with DU-CU split, then between control and user plane, and finally with the SDNization of the RAN. As we see the current status, it's very important to see whether Open RAN is aligned with 3GPP or ORAN. We need to see that in the theoretical terms, there is no relation between the two. However, since the interfaces like the E, F, NG, X2, XN, UU, these are all traditional RAN interfaces coming from 3GPP RAN study group. Whereas the Open RAN, oh sorry, the old RAN specs, for example, AO and front haul, these are the new ones based on the open architecture of the RAN. They all work together, and in fact, from 3GPP release 15, we have already studied them end to end, and it support open RAN vision. However, we need to find a way where we are all able to test it end to end, right? So somehow the testing stack, like the AGLand or and the others, like from VIAVI, this all type of solutions where whichever RF teams are using, they want surety that they can test the all interfaces. And frankly speaking, we should not forget that in the old version where we were going to integrate vendor XRAN with vendor Y core, we have been doing a very aggressive IoT to make it work. So it's very important to define a clear specs around the API and testing and acceptance criteria. So again, in terms of deployment, for those operators who have not deployed yet, the deployment based on release 16 is a good starting point, right? Well, primarily because the specs are already out and following a maturity on the release 17. In terms of front haul, it's very important to see transport for 5G, and especially on the front haul. It should support hybrid eCPRI and CPRI model to ensure that all deployment scenarios are possible. Similarly, we need to split the at a higher layer like option 2 or option 3 to make sure we have a necessary savings. Then the other requirements is about the coverage. I think it's very important to see the current performance of Open RAN. It is good in the FTD bands, for example, for 5G 800 megahertz. However, at the mid band like the 3.5 gigahertz or the massive MIMO 28 gigahertz, we find a lot of issues around the baseband performance on the BBU, and it is very important that due to this performance issues, it is obviously impacting both the capacity as well as the coverage of a loaded site. So there should needs to a complete analysis on the benchmarking to see an alternate, because we all know in 5G we have to build 10 times more sites than 3G 4G. So just imagine if the coverage is not meeting its requirements, then it is very hard to scale it out. In terms of hardware platform, there needs to be a more focus on the radio design itself, which is the antenna and its azimuth. Whereas on the other side, we have to see the x86 versus ARM models. Most importantly, the performance at the baseband. This is something which is available only for the lower band, FTD bands only. So that is very important to avoid silos. In terms of deployment models, in fact, the 5G radio side, this is 5G RAN plus MAC or Edge plus the SDN. Okay, so the thing is that, and AI as well, because of the presence of data at the site. So there should be a co-deployment model because we all know in the brownfield uh, we have to find a synergy for in a way that one of our technician goes on site, he can just plug and play and make a synergy. Instead, we first deploy some boxes for 5G RAN, then another guy do for edge, then another for the networking. So everything should be coming through the one box in an automated way. So this is very important to evaluate how the this core deployment scenarios will work. Finally, for the SDNization or automation of RAN is very important. We all know that 5G is highly scalable with the millions and billions of devices with many sites and small cells. It's very important to automate the whole RAN. We no need a manual and human interaction for both deployment and for its operations. So it is very important to see the RIC and other initiatives and their maturity. Finally, as we can see that 5G is coming as the clear winner to ensure or to drive the Open RAN or ORAN based deployments, right? So, along with this, we have to remember that 5G is opening a new opportunity, and this type of opportunity can only be capitalized based on new and open RAN solutions. But there are many streams. Open RAN is not just about RAN, it's also about cloud, it's also about automation like ONAP, it's also about software. Because the problem of this is that, in the site, we have very limited footprint and issues of power, even security and latency, like the site connects and disconnects. So, today, the CNCF and modern software architectures are really helping us out. So it's very important that we phase out this and how we can leverage or make use of all these initiatives. So this slide we should remember that finally the Open RAN must be deployed and delivered together with other initiatives to have substantial cost advantages. In terms of over recommendations for brownfield, the most important thing is the RAN requirements, right? We are not doing a greenfield. Actually, we all operators want to find a sweet spot for the 5G, which is a greenfield. For example, the enterprise 5G or private 5G is one of the place. Small cells or in building, especially with 5G massive MIMO, is very important. However, as I said, massive MIMO require very high performance requirements on the Open RAN. In a nutshell, we also need to ask, historically, RAN has not been quite innovative. I was reading the latest research and come to know that RAN on the telcos is 7 years behind innovation than the other innovation directions like IT, cloud, and AI. The proponents of RAN always say that our products are latest and it is 5G is very advanced and on the RAN side. But the fact is this, we are not able to innovate it in the way it is expected. For example, today there is no open high performance radios and there requires a lot of R&D spending to make it work for the 5G. Similarly, we are building a boxes by offered by the vendors, which is cost per box is low because they see the mass delivery, but there are so many standard or customized features which we no longer require. We need to see in an open or cloud based RAN delivery, we are able to define different MVPs based on what we exactly require and innovate it. More the services, more the cost. Less services, less cost. Why should I, if I have to use two three services, why should I pay for 100? That is a very important question for the business today. Then we have to see the coherence of 3GPP with GSMA and OITF and Open RAN. That is very important. So today we are working with operators to align the roadmap and expectations in the brownfield environments. Interface testing is very important, as I said, to define the blueprint from where we can evolve the ORAN or Open RAN architectures. Here, I just want to sum up the current Open RAN and network disaggregation challenges. On the left hand side, you can see that the architecture of the RAN in the 5G site. So it will be based on both the virtual VM or a SIM or the container based solution. The most important direction which we have to see here is that we have to standardize and make the architecture more nimble. For example, in the traditional RAN, we have EMS, then we have OSS, BSS. So maybe if all the APIs are available through the RAN functions, maybe we can get rid of these boxes like VNFM or SIM or WIM or EMS as a one box that is delivering all services through the API. So it's very important also in this diagram to see the vision of RIC and automation and the x86 accelerators that is definitely required for a commercial deployment. Then radio service, I already told you, has the most important challenge to define the MVP performance at the higher band, especially on the TDD. Then the specs, we want in homogeneous specs with different flavors for different models of sites. We all know we have macro and micro sites and indoor and outdoor sites and coverage sites and capacity sites. So it's very important to normalize those specs. Automation is very important, and transport and networking is the key. How, for example, a solution that support both eCPRI and CPRI based on TSN and the side links. That is very important that we build a solution that is integrable with our existing and legacy networks. One other direction is the integration with the existing OSS BSS like the NBIs and CoreBy. It's very important to see the bigger pictures for the Open RAN solutions. Where we think we are standing today, I think what we should deploy in the 5G side, both in terms of hardware specs and models, it's almost freezed, except the RAN application itself. So there requires to be a detailed POC for interface testing and functional testing, following by transport design at a higher layers and automation. So, and the most important thing in the next 6 to 12 months is involvement within the tape and SDOs for blueprint definition, RFX evaluation to see how vendors are coming. This is a catch here. You see, these open solutions, we find big vendors with the deep pockets. They join it and then they define their open solution, saying their solution is open plus plus. You will get open and also some enhancement which is very mature. However, such solutions become closed over time because you cannot swap them, you cannot integrate third party. So we must understand their limitation, especially with third party, because it can become a block point for the new services. So it's very important also to see the industry situation. Today we see in the Open RAN there are many vendors or SI partners coming from the IT background. So we have to really see that they are good in automation or software, but what about the 3GPP RAN itself? We still need to remember that Open RAN is a RAN service, it's not a cloud service. Cloud makes things easy, and I think over time I don't see a major challenge coming here. But for example, how the RAN services requirements will be mapped to the cloud or infrastructure, how we will test, because we need to see in a brownfield environment without a pre-post DT and the achieving all the coverage, capacity, availability, KPIs, nothing can be achieved. So it's very important to select the SI vendors that align with this vision. And most importantly, whether a neutral RAN SI vendor can control the big three. We all know in Europe or US, their behavior or attitude of the big three is different with the SI than in our market. So it's very important to see a realistic working model in this space. So this is, I think, the overall bigger picture of the story and what we should do. I think I will keep you update about what is the latest happening, and it's very important to understand, evaluate, and contribute, because this open RAN and this type of solution, the final vision is you can select components of RRU and baseband and automation stuff from different vendors. However, if you don't know the real features and functions in a layered way, obviously you cannot do it in a commercial network. So that is very important to keep an eye on. And that's all for this episode. And please let me know if you have any question through the comments, or you can reach back to me through the social feeds. So until next time, goodbye. Thank you very much.